on death row. That's why there ain't very few vacancies there, because there is no personal responsibility. Now, if you don't believe that with me, you go with me Tuesday night after the jail and sit down and talk to any one of those young men. And some of them ain't so young. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are 50 years old. Now, brother, let me tell you something. I don't know about y'all. If you ain't figured it out by the time you're 50, guess what? It's going to take the act of God to get you to figure it out. Okay? But I mean, if you're sitting there 50-something years old and your parents are out there, they're in walkers and wheelchairs, and they're coming to have to visit you because you can't stay away from the drugs, that's not a good day. You know what I'm saying? It's not a good day. So, and I think that's because there's no personal response. Nobody's responsible for anything. It's somebody else's fault. The policemen shouldn't have been looking. They shouldn't have, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't have come into my house and arrested me or whatever. They caused me to do it. It was somebody else's fault. And I'm telling you, as long as it's somebody else's fault, there is no help for you. I don't care what rehab you go through, as long as it's somebody else's fault. Oh, my mama made me this. You remember Freudian? Your mother makes you do everything. Your family makes you do everything. This, that, and the other. Anybody but you. As long as it's somebody else's fault, the government did this, I never called TV when I was a kid, whatever, right? As long as it's somebody else's fault, you will never curb the problem that you're having. And you will never restore that person that has committed the crime until he or she realizes, guess what? That ain't the people I'm hanging around with, that's me. I'm the person that needs to do some change, okay? So, that having been said, we were down about verse 33, and that's where I'm going to kind of try and pick it up, okay? And it says, and if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and the ox or the donkey fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. Okay, so what's going on? What's going on? Okay, animal falls in a hole, dies. All right? Somebody went out, dug a hole in their field. Animal comes along there, falls in, dies. Right? What happens? The owner of the animal or the owner of the pit? The owner of the pit is the one that is responsible. Now, when he pays the owner back, right, whose carcass does the animal become? Owner of the pit. That's right. In other words, basically, he's buying the animal that died because of his negligence. Okay? And so I want you to think about this for a minute in this respect. It is the idea that if you have privilege, you have responsibility. That's what I'm telling you now. If you have privilege, you have responsibility. This is why the government says, hey, if you drive a car, what do you have to have? What are you supposed to have? You're supposed to have insurance. Why? So that if something happens, what's going to happen? Hopefully you're going to try and restore the person that you have to wreck with. Is that not right? Now to me, that just makes common sense. What's the problem with that? People don't wait a Bill.
You have to pay uninsured motorist insurance.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do we have to do that?
Everybody's got insurance. Why do I got to pay for the that whole responsibility?
We were at, y'all remember probably 2 years ago maybe, Ashley had a very serious accident down on Willow Road. And we were down there with her, you know what I'm saying, after they'd settled everything, she had to go to court right on. And so we were down there with her, and there was a guy behind us, and young African-American guy, and his mouth was so filthy, it was unbelievable. And he was talking about, he was there because he didn't have a driver's license. And he was talking to the person sitting beside him. I don't know if it was his mother, aunt, or grandmother, what. And you know, I can't use the expletives, but what he was basically saying was, I ain't never had no license, and I ain't never planning on getting a license. I don't know who he thinks he is stopping me, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, dude, I mean, don't you know driving is a privilege? But with that privilege comes what? Responsibility. Okay, now let's look at this. This is in Genesis 1:26, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all living things, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Now, what is God saying? Mankind will what? They'll have dominion. What does dominion? That they will have management over what? All the creation. Is that not right? Okay? But now listen to chapter 9, verse 2. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Okay? So is God saying now we just go out and kill up everything? Because it's ours, we can do what we want to. Alright? What about mistreating animals? That says something about a culture, the way they treat their animals. You know what I'm saying? Does that give us the right to be able to just mistreat animals? But we have dominion. Didn't he just say we had dominion? We were in charge. But what? So with that dominion comes what? Responsibility. Is exactly right. And we are responsible for our environment. Now, I'm not all up into that big tree hugging stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you this. If you'll get with Brother Sonny, the 15 times he rides up this road to come out by our sign, and every time he does, he picks up a beer bottle, a beer can, some form of trash, right? Now, I have heartburn with that. Because here's the deal, you look at my truck and you say, man, where did the french fries come from? Depends on how old they are, whether or not I leave them. But anyway, I keep stuff in my truck, and when I get to my house, I throw it away. Right? Because here's the deal. When you come up here at the end of the road, our sign is the first thing people see. And when it's loaded with trash, what does that make the church look like? Trashy too. So we've been given dominion. It isn't that we haven't been given a place to put garbage. It's that people don't care. In other words, they have the privilege, roll the window down, throw it out, nobody's going to be looking. I don't know when the last time you ever saw anybody got stopped for littering. You know what I'm saying? Probably rare, if not at all. You know what I'm saying? So it is the idea that we are given a privilege, and with every privilege that we're given, there comes a responsibility. Now, that management or dominion in the Bible is called what? Stewardship. All right? Now, think about this for a minute. What's the difference between stewardship and ownership? What's the difference between stewardship and ownership? Because there is a difference. Sorry?
Stewardship makes you a caretaker.
Okay, stewardship makes you a caretaker. What does ownership do? Okay, so let me ask you this. All right, on your credit application, right, it asks you, do you rent or do you own your home? Okay, and I would like to say most of us can say we could check we own our own home, right? But do you really own it? You do as long as what? As long as you pay the taxes, as long as you do whatever the codes are, as long as whatever. You know what I'm saying? And if not, what can happen? It don't matter how much you pay, no matter how long it's been in your family, what will they do? They will come and get it. So, do you really own it? Or are you, not really, you're not. Or are you just a steward of it? Well, the son said he's taking care of it for the county. 1 Corinthians 4:10 says, moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found what? What does he mean when he says that? Now, we just established that a steward don't own it, right? He's just in charge. He's just a caretaker. I like that word. Okay? So now what does he say? Is every steward a good steward? No, they're not. Some of us are not good stewards of our time. Nod your head. Some of us are not good stewards of our finances. Nod your head. You know what I'm saying? Some of us are not good stewards of our family. Whether you realize it or not, you don't own your family. They may have the same last name. You know what I'm saying? But they're just on loan to you from God. Okay? So the idea is that guess what? Stewards have to be what? They have to be responsible. They have to be faithful. They have to be on task all the time. Because what's going to happen if they're not? It's either going to, somebody's either going to take it away from you, you're going to lose it because of foolishness, because you were negligent and not paying attention. Now, I'll give you an example. Okay? Here's the deal. Alright? Ladies, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. That'll be alright? Okay? Am I far enough where a pencil cannot hit me from over here? Okay? Alright? So you're driving along, tooting along about 150 miles an hour, as fast as the car will drive. And you come to a stop sign, and if you can stop, when you do, the car starts steaming. So then you say, well, I only have a few more miles to wherever I'm going. So what do, ladies? We floor it. Then we get to when it goes, and we call our husbands and we say what? I don't know what happened to him. Okay? Is that, I give you a little two-letter or two-word expression, locked up. Okay? Are you being a good steward of your vehicle? You're not. And when you find out how much it's going to cost you to fix it, you're going to realize that you're not a good steward. Okay? Because here's the deal, right? What do we know about the Bible says that everything we do has a consequence. Good, bad, or ugly. Is that not right? When we're good stewards, what happens? Whatever we're in charge of is used wisely, the most efficiently that it can be. I mean, you'd be surprised that hearing people come out of this parking lot and the belt is just on fire. It is screaming. They come pulling in and oil's running all out. When you say, hey, did you know you and your belt's going? Yeah, you know, it's kind of hard to steer. What happens when a power steering pump locks up? So it is the idea that if we have responsibility and we're stewards, we need to be good stewards, faithful stewards, which means what? Not only that we do it, but that we're consistent in the way that we do it. Does that make any sense? I'm getting some in head like. I'm going to pick on the ladies and now, see, my wife's over next door, so it's okay, guys. Matthew 25:21 says, his Lord said unto him, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee a ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. What is he saying? What is he saying?
Your reward can be good.
Saw Dr. Darrell yesterday. I won't report. I don't think I can repeat sure what he said. Anyway, so what was he saying now?
So the steward did a good job.
Steward did a good job. And he can do what? Entrust more goods, possessions. Why? Because we've been what? Good and faithful up to this point. See, people tell me all the time, well, I need more of this. I need more of that. I don't know why God won't let me win the lottery. Because God can't trust you with the $5 you have in your wallet now. Why would he want to give you $50 billion so you can dig your grave even faster? Amen? So if you say, gee, I'd really like to have this or that, then you know what? Be faithful in the things you have. Amen? Use the things that you have to honor God, and guess what might happen? He might bless you with something else. Is that not right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Be faithful in your tithe, and I guarantee you what will happen to your finances. I can tell you, I can show you my bank book and show you what will happen if you'll be faithful in your tithe. Because he's promised it. Well, he said, you try me. I'll press it down, run it over. I'll show you what good is. Amen? So, we have to be good stewards of what God has given us. Now, these last, did we read all the way down through 36? We did. Okay? This last thing, all right, would help I put your picture up there. The last thing is property rights. Okay? If you talk to most constitutionalists, I guess would be the best way to put it, people who read and study and believe in the Constitution, this right here is the number one foundational point of America, is the fact that a person has a right to own his or her own property. Well, later, it started with it was just his. Right? That he could own property, right, and the government couldn't take it away from him. All right? That's exactly what this is talking about when it talks about the land. The man doesn't lose the land, does he? What happens? He still has to pay, is that not right? But he don't lose the land. All right? So here you go. So, does man have the right to own property? If we're just stewards and responsible for it, can we ever really own it? Or does God allow us to own it? Does the Bible teach that we have the right to own it? Now don't read the whole slide. Let me read the slide and I'll give you that. Do you think the Bible gives us the right to own property? Look at Sam. Okay. All right. Does it? Yes? Sorry? While we're here. Okay. Slide says all possessions, property, and relationships are gifts from God. Matter of fact, actually, was it over in the New Testament? It says every good and perfect gift comes from above. Right? So they're gifts from God. We are the stewards, and we don't own them in the sense or the proper dictionary sense of ownership, but they have been given to us to do what? To manage. Is that not right? That means that guess what? It wasn't given to the state, the government. It was given to who? You and I. That's exactly right. As individuals. Absolutely. All right? So possessions then are simply tools that we use to spread the gospel. That's exactly what that. Money is no more than a tool. Now, I know we get all excited about it, and you need money to live. Don't misunderstand me. Believe me, you need money to live. But the thing about it is, at the end of the day, we need to recognize that as it just comes from the Lord. You know, and there's no need for me to get all excited about this, that, and the other, because God, y'all remember when the economy was so bad back, was it 2009 or something, where it was really tanking? Oh, we're going to all die. We'll be on food stamps. The economy is cyclical. You know what I'm saying? It does this number. And there's a little thing, a concept called dollar cost averaging, where when you put money away for retirement, yes, it may lose some as it goes along, but what will it also do over time? It'll also pick up some, usually in value. Okay? So, note the fairness of this law. The property owner was protected from negligence, because why? If the animal fell in there and died, what would happen? They would be reimbursed or they would be restored, all right? But the negligent property owner, okay, the careless owner of the pit, what happens? He becomes what? Responsible. Now, you have to understand, you say, well, you know, that donkey did this or that ox did that. I just buy him another ox. Well, you have to remember that these are not animals to eat. These are animals that work. Now, take your $35,000 car and drive it through a chuck hole and it just disappears. I don't know if you've seen any of the sinkholes. There was one down in Augusta. Guy ran into it with a gold wing. H.H. Gregg, yeah. And what happens is, what people always say, where did it go? Well, you know, if you got pipes under the road, if the pipe gets a leak in it, it starts washing the dirt out around it. And then the pavement is not designed to be a bridge, it just collapses. Well, you know, these things can open out of nowhere. All right? Okay? So you take your $30,000 car and you drive it into this sinkhole. All right? And you say, man, somebody's got to make that good. Well, think about that in this context. What if you drove your tractor into a sinkhole? And the tractor is the way that you made your living. Somebody's got to. Why? Because if it don't, what's going to happen? You're going to starve. That's exactly right. Yes, Al, I saw you.
What about the one about the garbage truck that happened on Central Avenue?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, they pulled that thing out by its snoot. I remember that. So, if someone is careless, they become what? Responsible. They become liable. That's exactly right. And their responsibility is what? To restore the person back to where they were. Sound that right?
Well, now you get caught in a contributory name.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I've heard some weird stuff about that thing. And this has been 25 years ago, over on Washington Road, there was an arena. And a tractor trailer on Washington Road, the truck driver had a heart attack and died, and the truck went through the marina and took out a major part of his building, but it also took out some people's boats. Now, if you know anything, if you want to have something expensive, you can do one of two things. You can have grandchildren or you can get on a boat. Okay? Either one of those will sink you. Okay? He calls the insurance company up and says, hey, man, since, you know, this guy ran through the thing, no problem, we'll check into it. They checked with the tractor trailer driver's insurance company. When they found out at the autopsy that he was dead when he ran through the building, they simply picked the phone up and called him and said, we don't insure dead people. And to my knowledge, his insurance wound up paying for it because they don't insure dead people. Now think about that, what a loophole that is. What if you killed 25 people? We're not responsible for that. All right, let's move on, okay? Unpreventable loss, all right? Note the equity of the shared loss, all right? That all undamaged property is sold by animal and divided. Did we read that section? Well, is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I said, let's do 35. And if one man's ox hurt another's that he died, then he shall sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also they shall divide. Or if it be known that the ox hath used to push in times past, and his owner hath not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. Okay, now what's happening? What happened? Okay, verse 35 is what kind of loss? It's on the board. It's unpreventable. Okay? In other words, right, the ox had no, you know what I'm saying? It had no history of being hard to get along with. Now he gets with the other ox, and what does he do? He gores him, kills him, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that the animal dies. Now, what's the remedy?
The owner of the rebellious animal was paid all damage.
That's well, actually it's sold, and what happens? It's divided. Is that not right? Okay? Now, think about this for a minute and think about the equity in that. Okay? So, both of them share in what? The responsibility, but they both share in the loss. Okay? And this is something, it's different than verse 36. Because in verse 36, what happens?
Repeat offender.
Now what happens to the loss? It becomes preventable, doesn't it? Is that not right? Be very much like if you're just riding down the road, all right, and you have a tire blowout. Y'all ever had that happen before? Yeah, tire blows out, okay? Now, that's different if you're out there and you're checking the air through the side of your tire by looking at it. Because there's some of them running around out there too, amen? All right? But if it just blows out, is that always preventable? You have to look at the rest of the tires on the car. Is that not right? To see if they're all onion skins, then chances are the one that blew out is what? An onion skin. That's negligence. All right? That's preventable, which has a different solution, okay, than one that is what? A true accident, something that really wasn't preventable. I don't know if y'all have seen the news today, okay? The young lady on the airplane that was killed, okay? And the engine blew up, all right? Now, I'm a mechanic. Some of you other guys are mechanics. You know what I'm saying? I've heard of jet engines taking bird strikes. I've heard of them running out of fuel. I can't remember the last time I heard one just blew up. Okay? Now, they're gonna, man, I'd hate to be the last guy that worked on that thing. You know what I'm saying? Because, even with the new highway regulations, if a fatality occurs, the last mechanic that works on it has to go take a drug test. I know because we had it happen out there with us, and the last guy, we had to pull the records, and the last guy that worked on the truck was taken straight. I had to take it. The manager had to take it to have a drug test. Heaven help him if something showed up in there. You know what I'm saying? So it's, you just don't hear about this. This is not something that, give you another example. The guy that landed in the river. Remember, bird struck, lost both engines, and he turned it around and was able to land it in the river, and not kill them all. All right. That, some people might say, well, that would be preventable. Yeah, you might kill all the birds. You know what I'm saying? But really, at the end of the day, was it really preventable? So it has a different remedy than, hey, gee, there's a flock of birds, let's fly through them and scare them. That's a different situation, isn't it? Okay? So,
that's not necessarily detectable.
well,
Based on the engine in use, you can suspect the metal's fatigue.
well, and here's the deal. What is the history of it? If that engine has 10,000 flight hours on it, life expectancy before they overhaul it, right? And this engine only had 2,000 hours on it and blew up. Again, it goes back to what we're talking about. What? There's not a history of it. But if it failed at 10,000 hours, or they caught it, the idea is catch it before it fails, okay? And it was at 9,950 hours, what now? Now might not be a good day. You see what I'm saying? Because maybe, they may put out that, I can assure you, this young lady's family's got a lawyer. And if you know anything about the airlines, they got deep pockets. I guarantee you, the people that were on the plane and saw that, they're going to have, what is that, PTSD, CSG, whatever, MSGs. They're going to have that for the rest of their life. They'll never be able to work again, especially if they're in California. Man was on 60 Minutes. He said, I'm allergic to work. News reporter said, I can't believe you're allergic to work. Yeah, said, when I get out there and get to work, said, skin starts leaking. Just pops out, sweat all over me. Face gets red. I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm allergic to work too. Georgia don't pay for that kind of stress, okay? All right? Warning to the negligent and the slothful. Romans 12:11. Not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Ephesians 5:15. See then that you walk circumspectly, carefully, not as fools, but as wise. Colossians 3:23. And whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord, and not unto men. What is these verses telling us? Obviously nothing. Okay? Not much, okay? Let's start at the very beginning. What does it say? What does Romans tell us? Not slothful in what? What is slothful? Anybody ever seen a sloth? I had some employees that were crossed with us. Not slothful in business, but fervent in spirit, serving who? So whatever you're doing, who should you be doing it unto? The Lord is exactly right. And if you're doing it, you ought to want to be the very best at whatever it is you do. Yes, I'm just reading. Take pride in what you do. There's not much of that anymore, is there? It really isn't. Okay? Then the second verse says, see that you walk carefully, not as fools, but what? Now, if you want to find out what a fool is, you go to the book of Proverbs. It'll tell you straight up what a fool is. Okay? None of us would say, gee, by the way, I want to be foolish. If you've ever had to pay for a foolish act, they are very expensive. More than once I've said to myself, note to self, don't do this. This is expensive, right? Don't be a fool. Or to be painful. And then finally it says, and whatsoever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not unto men. So everything we do, if God is in view, what should we be doing? The very best, whole hog is exactly right. Well, we're going wide open. Right? But most of us do what? That first verse. I see some of y'all coming into Sunday school. That little girl, Maria's granddaughter, I don't know her name. Man, buddy, when they say it's junior church time, she looks like that Energizer buddy, man. She's just jumping all over it. She's ready to go to church. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we looked viewed church that way, amen? I know what some of y'all are saying, if we had snacks, you would. They're so against me having snacks, they won't even do communion on Sunday morning. So it is the idea then, right, that God is telling us that we should be not negligent, okay? We shouldn't be slothful. If you see something that needs to be done, do what? Now, if you don't believe that, I'll tell you what, you just take your place and go and rent it. Okay? Some of you people who have tenants, renters or whatever. And when they call you over there and they say, gee, by the way, brother so-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, my kitchen floor fell in. And you're going, man, kitchen, well, I better get over there before somebody gets hurt. And then they tell you, used to love it at work, at my day job. It's been leaking under there for a month. But you didn't tell nobody? And we used to have to repair, very expensive repairing a car or something. It'd be just gone out from under warranty. You'd say, man, I wish we'd caught this under warranty. We'd save that $4,000. Well, it's been doing it for 3 months. But you didn't say, it's been in here 3 times and you hadn't said a word about, hey, this is messing up. That's negligence. That's slothfulness. And here's the deal. The way it was out where I used to work, because it didn't belong to them, guess what? But you know the problem with that is? It belonged to all of us. Amen? Wouldn't it have been nice to have had some people that said, look, I don't want to, I'm not going to let this just be destroyed. But why do people who rent and people in my day job, why do they do that? Because they don't want to. And in the end, guess what? They're not going to pay any more to fix it. Right? And I'm telling you, if you're a renter and you mess around with something like that, don't let them call somebody from the government to come out there and check it. Because they'll make you fix it. And I mean, pronto. You know what I'm saying? Especially if somebody's got a disability or something. Oh, my goodness. Now you get upside down. So, it is the idea that we should be good stewards of all that God's blessed us with. Okay? We're going to stop right here because we're over by about 5 minutes. Okay? Any questions? Did I really confuse you? We did complete chapter 21. Now, if I go outside and there's a channel 12 car sitting out front, I'm going to know some of y'all called. I know what y'all are saying. We witnessed a miracle. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great rest of the week. If I can do anything for you, please don't hesitate to call on me in any way that I can.